So the conversation's quite wide-ranging. We'll throw it back to you after the first 30 minutes. We're going to touch on things such as digital astuteness, what that should look like in our children, how we can guide and shape it. The fourth industrial revolution, or should we say the fifth, which is probably already upon us, and what that means. And how you give meaningful and personalised careers advice in a very busy, noisy time in a child's life, and what that should look like at primary and what it should look like at secondary. At the moment, the school is reviewing the mission and vision of the school, and this is a particular area that I think is really important for us all to understand. The landscape around us, as we know, has shifted, it's changed, and what children face today is quite different from what we all faced. So how do we help them adapt and become cognitively flexible? We were talking about that earlier, to prepare them for those challenges. So bear with us as we hit on lots of different themes this morning. Introducing Dr. Shanton is quite complex. His work is so wide-ranging. So he's an expert in careers. He's an expert in the fourth industrial revolution, in all things digital. He works in the tertiary education sector with schools and with companies. So he brings a huge network behind him and a huge range of experiences to talk about this morning. So welcome, really excited to kick off the conversation. Shanton also spoke to Year 11 students yesterday, and he's going to share some of those experiences and reflections this morning. So can I start by asking you what digital astuteness is for students, what that means, because we've talked a bit about digital with some of the faces that are in this room before. Just curious what you think it is.
Well, digital astuteness is a way that I present to the students what they need to, I guess it's an attribute, but also a set of skills and attitude in terms of the way that they approach the world, in terms of the way that they approach their first interview, job interview, in terms of the way that they do their jobs in the future. And so it has a few different components. The first component is digital skills. And these are things like understanding how search engine optimization works, right? And that is completely foreign to some people. It essentially is, how do you ensure that anything that you do comes up in the first page of Google, for example. But also things like being able to do videos, and for the more technical students, IT, right? IT skills. But not everyone wants to have IT skills, but you still need to have some digital skills. The second set of skills are the digital literacy skills. That means, how do you differentiate between real information, misinformation, and disinformation, and not just rely on the first thing that you read from your best friend, for example. So that sort of critical thinking online is absolutely crucial. And the mistake that teachers, academics, and adults generally make, that because they are born into the world of digital, they can work it out, that they are so digitally literate. I'm here to tell you that even at the University of Melbourne, where I'm from, with the best students, they are not, right? They're very good at finding the things that they're interested in, the one or two things, whether it's K-pop or something, but they can't find anything else, and they can't differentiate between real or fake information even. And that can be a challenge. The third part is digital emotional intelligence. Now this is fundamental, because some 60% of their communication will be online. And with the pandemic, it went up to 80%, right? We spend a lot of time online. And so you need to be able to read between the lines online. What does it actually mean when somebody is saying this or typing this in their emails and all that sort of stuff? And the last bit is their digital personal branding. Now this is really interesting yesterday when I spoke to the Year 11s, because I talked about the fact that a lot of employers would actually check their online profile and their social media profile before they even go and talk to the referee when they're looking for jobs. And the students ask, really, how good are they at tracking us down? And I said, pretty good, because we are paid very well to track you down and find out what's going on. And I think that freaked out a number of them. And I talked about this idea that there is a digital tattoo, that once you post something nasty about someone, it's going to come back, and it's not that easy to get rid of. And so you got the skills, the literacy, the emotional intelligence, and the personal branding all online. And altogether, that's about your digital astuteness when you walk into your first job interview.
Thank you. So we kind of started there because that was the hook that the Year 11s were most fascinated by yesterday, and we wanted to share that at the start. I'm curious, from your research, from the evidence that you see, and from companies, when you look at child development in primary school students, what would you expect or hope for their digital engagement to look like?
You know, this is an interesting question. I think if you ask various number of my colleagues, they might have a different response. My response is, at the primary school, the most important skills to develop are their human communication, interaction skills, not their digital skills. And I live by example. In my own family, the kids under 10 years old, they might have access to iPad, but it's not their iPad. And they might have access to it 1 or 2 hours with an adult. Or if they're doing something on their own, it's no more than a few minutes. That means, unfortunately, that when you're at dinner, the kids are running around and talking to you. So you can't have adult conversations. And the kids are sitting on the side playing with their own iPads. That doesn't happen. But that's so essential because the digital skills, I have so many colleagues in the industry that's making technology idiot-proof. That when a child at 12 years old picks up an iPad, it'll take them literally 5 seconds to work out how to use it, right? But if you haven't developed real emotional intelligence face-to-face, how on earth are you going to develop digital emotional intelligence? If you're a child that spends so much time on a child iPad using apps that are for children, because of course you want it to be child safe, but what happens with the child safe apps is they're all usually animation. And with animation, there is a limited range of human expression on a cartoon character. Does that make sense? And nowadays, they're seeing cartoons and they're seeing masks. At what stage does a young person in primary school develop an understanding of facial expressions and being able to read between the lines face to face? So they need to sort that out before they worry about the digital, because once you have the fundamental human skills, then you've got that. I think where the digital skills that are relevant for primary school, I think it's introducing them to the fact that technology is everywhere. Doesn't mean that they have to be completely immersed in it at that stage. And then once you're above 10, then you start to go, here, explore, and they'll pick it up really quickly.
So that was my next question.
Oh, okay.
What do you think then, if developmentally it's really secure to actually teach some of the human skills prior to any meaningful independent encounter with tech, what would you recommend in secondary school students, particularly those who perhaps are preparing for careers and they're narrowing the choices that they're making in terms of options for exams and so on? Yeah.
So at the secondary school, what then happens is we need to introduce to them this idea that just because you don't see a person, there are people behind the screen. One of the challenges is that, I mean, we are all guilty of it. We all use technology without fully understanding what it means. How many of you actually know what kind of data you're giving up to Amazon or Facebook or Instagram or to your local shopping center, right? Every time you log into a free Wi-Fi at Mid Valley Mall, what are they tracking? The next time you're near Mid Valley Mall, they tell you about the sales of your favorite shop. You know what I mean? So if we can't get a sense of it, can you imagine the teenagers doing that? So I think part of what we need to do at schools is to also understand the implications of digital technology, that there are people behind it, good people, bad people, right? And that when you are saying something online, what does it actually mean? And that's where the school can come in and where the parents can come in. And also cybersecurity is so crucial, because when you think about the security of your home, how many of you, by the way, have Alexa at home? Yeah, all right. How many of you use Siri? Yeah. So the thing about these technologies is they're super useful and convenient, but what it means is every conversation that you're having is being recorded somewhere, right? So a lot of people tell me, but it only activates when you say, Alexa, do something, or Siri do something. But how does the technology know when you've said Alexa or Siri? It means that they're constantly listening to you. Sorry. So basically, you've got this thing that's in your lives that's collecting all the data, right? From every person around you. And so how do we have those conversations with the teenagers? And that's where it needs to start happening without assuming that, oh, they're digital natives, they know how to work it out. They don't. And the other thing is, researchers like me, we don't like the term digital natives because it's very misleading. It assumes that there's a group of people who are born experts in knowing all these things, and they're not. Yeah.
That's true also in educational research. If you read in that area, it's really clear the digital native is a myth, for all the kind of reasons that you've just touched on there. So a myth that we're glad to see the back of, hopefully, and that we can meaningfully speak about what's necessary. Can we go back to skills?
Yes.
It's a slightly different question. When we talk about the kind of skills that we want our students to develop, and so that they can navigate the complexity of what we're talking about with the backdrop of digital, for you, what are the key skills students should be developing and adults around them should be modelling so that they're able to really pick these up and apply them?
Openness, agility and adaptability, initiative, communication, negotiation, creativity, resilience. These are things that employers keep telling us we're not seeing enough. Your graduates, no matter how brilliant, seem to be missing these things. They only know how to work to frameworks. And we, as a university, have to train the students not to think in terms of assignments and exams, right? Because if you have an assignments and exams framework, what it means is you go to a job, and unless somebody gives you an assignment or an exam, it's kind of like, oh, today I don't have any assignments, so I'm fine. But that's not how the working life is, right? So it's about continual adaptability, negotiation, teamwork, collaboration, and resilience. Resilience is the other thing that I talked about, because particularly for high achieving students, particularly international schools, they're not used to failure because they have been so well supported that the first time they fail, it's almost like the wheels have gone and it's the end of the world. We see this so often at the university level, and yet we say actually failure is a normal part of life, and it's how you get up and what you do. But that's harder, especially if they are studying overseas, when their parents and their security blankets are not there, if you know what I mean. And so they have to cope with this themselves. So those are some of the fundamental skills that are absolutely crucial even when they go into the workplace. Then when we look at the technical skills, there are 5 areas. The first one that's really crucial for all our students is to understand security and sustainability, because there's limited resources everywhere. And so not wasting is absolutely crucial and very important to all companies across all sectors. Then you've got the kind of group of people who are very good with attention to detail and processes and all that sort of stuff. So those are the people who study commerce, business, science, medicine, right? Attention detail, very important for that group. Then you've got the human communication, human relations. So that's the humanities, social sciences, the teachers, the managers, that sort of area. Then you've got the user experience. That means building, creating creative solutions. And those ones, it's not about efficiency and effectiveness. It's also about building security, pleasure, wonder, and excitement. So it's not just efficiency and effectiveness anymore. You're no longer, engineering, for example, you're no longer just building a bridge, you're building a human experience, right? Because it's what's around as well, right? And finally, of course, automating the world, the IT skills that I talked about. And so many people veer away from it, even though they use IT all the time. So we say to students, pick 1 or 2 of those, avoid the one that you don't like. You don't have to be good at all 4, you're not all Michelangelos. Just pick 1 or 2, focus on one, and then have all those human skills that I talked about earlier on. That's a very long answer.
It's a great answer. I think you and I spoke earlier that sometimes these things are called soft skills or human skills. almost as if they don't have the same currency as some of the hard things that we can easily measure.
Yeah.
And increasingly that's not the case. I think we all know that, but that's a reality that's coming. So of course, I'm intentionally going to design the new strategy with that in mind, to make sure that we're paying mind to that. What other things do we all as a community need to be aware of? You know, we talked about the fourth revolution. We haven't necessarily got to grips with that, and actually the fifth one is upon us. What does that look like? Could you guide us through what some of those challenges are going to look like for us?
Yeah. So maybe, so this is where I put on the slide. Okay, so for those of you who are trying to work out the first, second, third, and fourth revolution, maybe if we start there, right? We're well past the first, second, and third, right? We all have water, we know how to take the LRT and all that, so it's all good. We're on the fourth, where technology is in our home, so we've got the Alexas and Siris, and it's so much a part of our home. And so what it means is that we now, as a society, have become so used to consuming technology that we're not aware of the production and implications of technology. So from that point of view, I think the understanding of what actually is the role of technology in human society, in business, right? We have students who tell us, oh, we want to do a Bachelor of Commerce, but we have no interest in anything IT. And I have to say to the students, in what world does a business nowadays not have to think about IT? And yet in their minds, they say, oh, but my parents tell me I don't have to worry about it. Somebody else will do it. That means that for the rest of your lives, you'll be paying a lot of money for someone to control your life, without you thinking that you're controlling your life, but it's actually someone else. Which brings me to the fifth revolution, which people are starting to talk about. And it's not just this idea of, you know, the IT being in our everyday lives, because with the fourth revolution, we have a choice. We are choosing to adopt the technology. We're choosing to buy the technology. We're choosing to use technology. With the fifth revolution, we don't actually have a choice, because you've all heard of the term artificial intelligence, AI. We are already living through the impacts of AI, right? The example that I gave earlier on of, you know, the shopping center being able to push messages out to you is an example of AI. They are taking data from all of us and making decisions for each and every one of us. And that's where, you know, if you think about the farmers in rural Malaysia, for example, whether or not they use technology, AI is being imposed on them. Their buying power, their purchasing power. So companies and the supply chain can decide, well, I'm going to only give you this quota because I know that's all you can sell, whereas I can sell more to someone else. So the decision is being made for us in so many ways. And it happens in schools as well. And universities, where it's almost like, okay, we know that students from Alice Smith will do better from historically, so therefore we might be more willing to use predictive grades, right? So if a student puts that in, that's fine, yeah? But a student from another school where we have never had a student will go, nah, not prioritized. So the student doesn't even have a choice there when it comes to things like that. And it's the same with employers doing that as well. They will select from particular universities graduates and then leave everyone out. So the profiling becomes automated, and that is very much upon us. So what it means is we have to learn what data are we sharing. And our students and our kids have to understand what data are you giving up for that free Wi-Fi, you know, in Bukit Bintang. What does it actually mean to say, you know, yeah, the app can track where I am. Oh my gosh. And it doesn't help because it's really giving away a lot of information about ourselves.
It's an interesting point, I think, for schools, because I'm thinking of a past life before Alice Smith, where we would actually use adaptive technology to support student learning, and it was really personalised but driven by AI. And there was a crucial point where the data sets used to sit with us, and then there was a contract change and the data sets were going to go to the company, and we severed ties with the company. And we did that not because we were resistant to the tech. Actually, the tech was really good, really effective, but not wanting to make that really crucial decision on behalf of the children in case it went toward a profiling tool that might be used in the way you just described. We just didn't know what they were going to do with the data set. And some schools are deferring to places like the Centre for Humane Technology in order to create coalitions to really put us back more into the fourth revolution, to kind of drive what we need from the tech rather than the tech driving us in the way you described.
The more we understand the tech, the more we can control what's going on, rather than being told what to do, when you can do it, how you can do it. Yeah.
So important to have that knowledge and try and at least to keep pace, and so we can predict some of these things better.
And for the students, it's not too young in the teenage, from the teenage, once they've got the human skills, they can think, right? Like, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? But if they haven't developed those skills, it's kind of like, why not? Just do it. What's the problem? It's convenient, right? That's the difference between somebody who's developed those thinking skills early to navigate the digital versus they've just used digital the whole time. Does that make sense?
It does. Can I switch completely?
Sure.
Because I just want to make the most of the time we've got here, so we're going to go straight into careers. Something you and I have spoken about is around career reinvention and the idea that you have a job for life. I think all of us know that's not the reality. For you, what you're seeing now in the trends, how many careers might a child in the generation at Alice Smith now have? And how do they navigate to keep reinventing be relevant?
Yeah, this is the most stressful thing for parents, right? Because we like to think that our children would go on to a job and be secure for a long time. And we've known for a long time that doesn't exist anymore. But all is not lost. So thinking back to what I was saying earlier on about the skills that we need to develop in our young people, firstly, those human and soft skills, as we call it, it's relevant no matter which industry you go to. No matter which industry, whether you're working for the zoo or the government, it doesn't matter. You need those skills. Now, in terms of the careers, there's research that tells us that young people nowadays might have as many as 7 different careers throughout their lives. Not jobs, careers. That means that they're going down different trajectories, right? I have companies like Deloitte, KPMG, PwC saying that, wow, if your graduate stays with us for 3 years, that's already amazing. 3 years, right? And and I would have thought, oh, don't you, like, after all that effort and all the training and they've got all the organizational knowledge, wouldn't you expect them to stay 10, 15, 20 and become partners at the end? That is so 20th century. You know what I mean? So it's that sort of 3 years is the, so that's the difference in the thinking. So how then do our young people, are they able to have that agility to go through those different careers? Well, I didn't understand this until about 10 years ago. Now, think back to what I was saying about the 4 different sets of skills, the kind of attention to detail type people, the people person, the creative person, and the tech person, right? And I said students need to choose 1 or 2 of those and avoid the one they do not like. The principle here is very simple. Companies can and will take away your jobs because actually the jobs belong to the company. They never belong to us. If you think about it, people say it's my job. Actually, no, it's the company's job. I'm just doing it, right? They can take away your job, but there's one thing they can't take away, your skills, right? So the example I give is, if you are in the corner that's about communication, you train to be a journalist, let's say. You train to be a journalist, you have critical thinking, you're very good at communication and doing research around social issues and all that. And you lost your job as a journalist. Does that mean the end of the world? No. You take those amazing communication skills, you go and work for Google. They're desperate for people like that. Google doesn't want you, go to the government. Government doesn't want you, go to the banks, right? All those companies will need somebody with that set of skills, right? If you're a data analyst, great attention to detail, and I've had young students say, I will only do business analyst. I'm going, why? With your analytic skill, do you think only businesses need those skills? Right? It's that thinking of, I must be in this, when in fact, those analytic skills, you can go and work for the zoo. You can work for a museum, you can work for Google, you can work for the banks, right? And so this is how, when you have those skills, it's so important that you realize how important those skills are for the different companies. I used to ask the students, if you want to work for Google, which of those sets of skills are most important? They would say, oh, the IT skills. And I said, that's true, but what if you're terrible at IT? Do you force yourself to study IT? The answer is no, don't. If you're the best communicator, be the best communicator, because Google will still want people like you. So you end up working for Google, not the programming. Do you see what I mean? Right? In the same way, if you love museums, but you can't stand people, and you don't want to study history, if you're a creative person, you can still work for a museum building their interactive apps, because museums are now all interactive. So you never did a day of history, but you're an engineer, software engineer, and you can still work for a museum. That's the agility of the 21st century. Nobody hires the same type of people in an organization anymore. So this is why for our young person, I always say the wrong question to ask is, which of those skills has the most jobs and pays the most? That's the wrong question to ask, because I say, if I tell you IT is the one with the most skills and pays the most, but you can't do maths, are you going to struggle through IT? You end up with a lousy degree, you barely pass, you're still not going to get a job in IT. You're better off doing what you're good at, maybe it's communication, right? And you're the best communicator, and you can go and work for Microsoft still, because they still need a good communicator. Just you're not doing the programming job. Does that make sense? That's a very long way of answering that question.
So it's clear, I think, from what you're saying, I'm taking that actually all of our mindsets need to change around this to help prepare students for that reality.
Yeah.
Like gearing our systems to talk about those transferable skills rather than seeing exam grades as the ultimate destination and the degree as the ultimate destination.
Yeah. I think the soft skills are very important, and when you're thinking about the degree, the choice of which degree to do, we need to ask our children what sets of skills are they particularly good at. If they're a person who is really good with attention to detail, you know, the kind of degrees that develop those are the sciences, the medicine type degrees, the commerce type degrees. But if they have no attention to detail and you force them to go into that set of skills, they're going to really struggle. And when they struggle at university, all they do is study at university, and they'll spend no time developing all their soft skills at university. So it's very ironic. I'm a professor, but I'm telling students, don't just spend all your time studying. And you know who are my biggest enemies? I'm sorry to say, it's the parents. You say, don't do anything except study. I'm saying you can't, because you can't come out of a university with a grade point average of 85, 90 and an empty CV. A company will not look at you, because the company is not going to pay you to study. If you've got a GPA of 90 and nothing else, it means that the company knows you can study, but can you do the job? We don't know. Whereas if you have a GPA of 75, which is still respectable, but you were the vice president of the Malaysian Student Club, the Law Student Society, the Chocolate Appreciation Club, and you organize events, right? We do actually have that club. I'm not kidding. It's not joking. We have a Tea Appreciation and a Chocolate Appreciation Club. But they organize events, so they have to go out and get sponsorship and all that. I know that graduate can talk to people and can satisfy clients' needs. So I'm going to give the job to that person, not the 90 GPA with nothing, right? So if a child is studying something they absolutely hate, right, they're just going to barely survive with a pass, and then because they spend all their time studying, they haven't developed any of those skills. We bring companies onto campus to network with our students. And the students who usually enjoy what they're studying are the ones who show up to talk to the companies. Whereas the students who are too panicked about doing their assignments because they are struggling, because they're in the wrong course, don't have time to come and talk to the companies that's going to hire them. So those are the ones that, you know, sometimes, coming from the Faculty of Engineering, I can say there are families where they have had 2 generations of engineering parents. And so the child must be an engineer. But this child is like, you shouldn't be an engineer at all, you know? And yet they just have to do it. It's a struggle, yeah.
So as a school, actually helping children know themselves well, know what their skills and strengths are is obviously, I mean, we know it's critical, but I think it brings it into really sharp focus now with everything you've
I
said
think
there.
in primary school, you need to expose them to all the different skills, because primary school is too young for them to like focus. They need to be creative, technical, as well as, you know, attention to detail. You know, some students are great with that. Some can't focus to save their lives, and others who can talk a lot, and others who don't want to talk. So they need to explore all that. But by upper secondary, they need to start to shape. No, well, that's when their personalities really develop, and they know. And if your child doesn't know, ask the child's friends. I've learned this, right? You know, they are very good at saying, oh, she's the one that can do all this, or he's the one that can do this. But sometimes they're good at thinking about others, but not themselves as well. Yeah.
Thank you.